Yo, what is poppin', gamers? It's your boy, Live Films, and I kind of want to talk again. Oh, this guy, he never stops talking. That's what everybody says. And, yeah, I mean, so I want to talk about how significant our existence is, you know? I mean, I'm out here taking a walk at night, enjoying nature because I am nature, and you're nature too. We're all nature. You know, we're all a part of this interconnected world that just so happened to work out. I mean, like, if you take a step back, and you know, it's like every 6th grader's basic first thought of existentialism. It's it was truly a miracle that we even exist, right? It's truly a miracle that I am even capable of thought, right? That's like, you know, I mean, you know, myself in 6th grade and many other, you know, 6th graders, 7th graders, you know, 11, 12, that's when you first start to have those sort of deeper thoughts. Some people, you know, they don't really think about that, but I think most people do. They just think about it in different ways. Like, they express their existential thoughts in different ways, and they experience them in different ways from each other. I think every person sort of debates their own existence at least once in their life. Some, you know, ponder over it and think about it for years and decades, and others, they just think about it, realize they're stupid for thinking about it, and then they move on, right? Like, it's kind of this just unique thing that humans possess. I mean, maybe it's not just as possessive, you know? We can't, animals aren't like, other animals aren't like capable of communicating with us, but maybe they have these thoughts too. Maybe they are capable of cognitive thought. There's just no way for them to express it because they haven't been given the tools to do so, right? Maybe we're the only ones who are given the tools to do so, and we were the only ones who were able to manifest it efficiently and effectively. And I think existential thoughts kind of increased more as the human population has less to do, right? Like, we're not in just a natural, regular environment anymore. We spend a lot more time doing nothing, right? We already had these existential thoughts, but they're only amplified by how things just seem to, you know, how things are so automatic nowadays. And I'm not trying to say, you know, that back then was better. I'm glad that I was born the time I was in. You know, I'm not, most people was saying, like, oh, I was born in the wrong generation. It's not something cringy like that, but, you know, that's kind of the reason why you have some of these people like Ted Kaczynski, Unabomber. He probably, I don't know like a ton about him, but I'm assuming he had such deep existential thoughts. You know, he's a smart guy. He probably thought a lot. But he probably had so many thoughts that he just wanted to shut them all out. And the only solution in his head was to go back to this sort of primal human existence, which was, you know, living in a cabin in the woods and hunting and doing everything independently by yourself with no interference from the government or other people. He had this very extreme pattern of thought, you know, which led to violent acts, obviously. You know, I'm not saying he was a good person. He was a pretty bad person, but you can kind of start to develop and see the reasoning behind how some people could justify things like that. How some people in their own head could lead to justification for horrible things that they do. You know, you can sort of justify just about anything. I mean, that's all arguments are, I really think, is sort of these justifications versus justification. One person has their own justification, and another has their own. And the winner of the argument is the one who brings the other to their side. They reach a common truth, maybe they reach a compromise. That's the winner. You know, maybe they both win, they compromise. They both kind of get like a half victory, right? It's kind of this unique process of thought, because everything that you think is true, right? You think it's right. I mean, there's no, you know, it would be unnatural, it would be wrong to think something, you can't think something that's purposefully a lie and know it's both a lie but still believe it, right? Because you're not believing it. You think it's a lie. So inherently, by that definition, you're not believing it, right? You are just adhering to it. So like some people, you know, they might be like pretending, I'll use politics for this example, I guess, even though I don't really like politics. But, you know, say there's one person, they're, you know, pretending to be affiliated with this political party. They will say things like, you know, they'll support the political party they're pretending to be affiliated with. And they'll say things to support that and justify that. But truthfully to them, that is not the truth, right? They don't actually believe that. Even though they're pretending that that's their own truth and that's their own justification, that's still technically not their justification. You can't know something is a lie and still believe in it, right? They're pretending. They're not actually believing in it. They're just lying to you, right? There's no possible way, because that's just a paradox. It's a non-factor. That's something that can't happen, right? Like, you can't have something be both. You can't have something be like solid. So like, okay, in logic puzzles, you'll be asked a question. I take a thinking skills class. It's pretty cool, actually. I thought it was gonna be kind of lame, but it's actually pretty cool. But we recently went through this problem where you're given envelope X, Y, and Z, and they each have conflicting statements. Only one or less statements on each of the envelopes is false, and you have to guess which one is the key. You only get one guess. And you basically have to solve this logic puzzle to find this key to help you escape from prison. And one of the statements is like, the key is solid iron, and then on the other envelope it's, the key is solid brass. So you're kind of stuck in this like, okay, well, it can't be both. One of these has to be true, one of these has to be false, because it can't be both solid brass and solid silver at the same time, or solid gold, or whatever the hell I said. You know, you have to. Sorry, it's really dark right now. Podcast time. But it can't be both true and false, right? So that's why you can't really lie to yourself, because deep down you know that's because everything that you believe in is a truth to you, right? Like for myself, I'm constantly developing these new truths. Right now, the truth to me, I'm holding a phone. That can't be a lie, because I know it's a truth. I know it's my personal truth. And that's where sort of mental illness gets, like, makes it more complicated, like way more complicated. Like, if somebody is schizophrenic, right? They think they're holding a phone. They have these psychotic thoughts. They think they're holding a phone, but they're truly not. Sorry, that was one of my fans. He was looking over at me on his based alpha golf cart. He was looking over at me. He knows. But you can't. This schizophrenic person, they believe that they're holding the phone. They truly think that they're holding this phone. They're talking to a camera. But the actual truth is that they're not, right? The actual truth is that they're not. The actual truth is that they're not holding anything at all, right? So the schizophrenic person they don't think that they're not holding a phone, they're just pretending that they are, right? They actually believe that. That's their personal truth. Life is about these personal truths that we develop for ourselves. And that's kind of how you can sort of become more of a developed person, is identifying the truths that apply to you, right? Because truths are going to be different for every person, And over time, obviously your own truths can get disproven. I'm not saying they're going to stay constant for your whole life, right? Like, you could believe in God for half your life and then live the rest of it being an atheist, right? Maybe you find some evidence, some reasoning that justifies more so in your own head that the actual truth is that there's no God, right? The actual truth is that there's nothing to believe in. Or maybe you're agnostic and the actual truth is just unknown to you. You know that there is a truth, but you don't really think that you can confirm it, right? You don't think that there is a way to confirm it. So you develop your own truth that there's no way to confirm it, and that there's probably a God, It makes me think of that meme of the monkey in the top hat and the business suit, and it's like, agnostics be like, maybe, because that's their truth, is this maybe, this consideration. An agnostic person probably is more likely to be like politically moderate, right? They'll be more likely to be like, well, I can see both sides, right? They can be like, well, I can sort of associate with either side, right? Like, they can, their maybe. Their own personal truth is not really adhering to a side, right? It's all about developing these own personal truths, and that's sort of my hypothesis on human thought. I don't think you're capable of believing something that you know is false, right? You can feign ignorance, but on the inside you truly know that it's wrong, right? Just, take a moment of silence, think about yourself, because I think we kind of, as people, need to just slow down a little bit, right? That's kind of why I like creating these, right? Because for our thought, my personal truth is that we're too fast-paced, right? We're able to access too many pleasurable things too easily, and it just makes us want to go faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Pick up the pace, line films. Talk quicker, put in funny edits so I'm not bored. But, to those of you who actually watched this far, which I doubt any of you did, because I'm kind of rambly and gay, but not in a bad way. But, yeah, that's kind of why I like making it sort of more unedited. I planned to initially make it more edited and entertaining and consumable, but, if you're not going to be entertained by this sort of content, where it's just slower and it's just kind of like me talking, then I don't see the point in bothering and trying to make it more accessible, because it probably just won't be. I kind of am just doing this for selfish reasons, right? That's kind of where, like, an egoistic person would start to develop their theories, right? Like, an egoist is like, everybody does things for their personal self, right? Like, an egoist is like, their main philosophy is that you can't be altruistic, right? Everything you do is for your own personal gain. An altruist, a pure empath, they do it because it makes them feel better to help people, right? It makes them feel like a better person to do these things. So an egoist takes the position that the best course of action is to allow people to do and this is for more like full egoists. I think, you know, myself, I kind of see a lot of the points of egoism, and I think I kind of believe in it a little bit, but I'm not like a full egoist, right? I think like a full egoist, what they would think is everybody should be left to their own devices because they're all acting in self-interest anyway, so why even bother making people do things for other people, right? Everybody's doing everything in self-interest, so what's the point of even doing anything? And I probably have that wrong. It's been a little bit since I've read Max Stirner's philosophy, but yeah, you know, I think you really could be, based on, you know, my definition of an egoist, which is somebody who thinks that everybody acts in their own self-interest. I think you could be both an egoist and an altruist, right? Like, you could be somebody who believes that everybody acts in their own self-interest, but still help other people, right? You could acknowledge that the things you're doing are for yourself, are for the little pleasure sensation you get when you help somebody. That little feeling in your stomach you get when you gift somebody something and they're really surprised and they're really happy that you gifted it to them. That little pleasure feeling. If you never got that, then what's the point in even gifting somebody anything, right? Like a sociopath or a psychopath. I think this more applies to like psychopaths. They would, they don't really see the point in other than advancing their own agendas, right? They don't see the point in giving somebody something just to get that feeling, just to be nice. They, you know, they do nice things so that they can manipulate others and have others be more willing to accept their thoughts, right? And that's kind of why you need to eject toxic people from your life, you know? You can't have toxic people own you. You can't let them manipulate you. And it's hard because, you know, as I was talking about earlier with personal truths, if you're, say, like, a manipulation, abuse victim even, and you don't know how to escape, your personal truth is that this person will get better, right? You're not just going to stay there. You're not going to contradict your own thoughts and stay there even when you absolutely know for sure they won't get better. You have this little voice in your head telling you, no, it'll be all good. It'll be better. They'll change. I can change them. Maybe I did something wrong. I should fix something about myself. And that's sort of the toxic thing about, you know, not even just full psychopaths, full sociopaths, you know, these scary little buzzwords, right? Just people in general, toxic people. That's the scary thing, because you make up these own personal truths, because obviously you don't want to be wrong. Nobody wants to be wrong, you know, some more than others. But it's so hard to eject toxic people from your life, because first, it takes an admittance that you were wrong for ever talking to them. And, you know, sometimes it's not even that you were wrong for ever talking to them. That's a little bit extreme, and that has some of my own personal bias in it. But it's important to recognize that everything you believed about this person and that they would be right for you was wrong. And you have to acknowledge that, and you have to move on. You have to let go of these experiences that were happy for you, right? You have to let go. And that is such a hard task. People, when people talk about letting go, they make it seem easier than it is, right? They make it seem easier than it is, because letting go involves getting rid of your own personal truths. And like I said earlier, everything is based on our personal truths, because you inherently, as a person, can't believe a lie, right? If something is a lie to you, you're not going to believe it. So everything is based upon these personal truths, and letting go means, breaking down some of these personal truths and realizing that they weren't really true to you. They were falsehoods. And that these new personal truths, you need room for these new personal truths to develop, right? You need room for you to recognize that this person was abusive. They hit you not, because you're a horrible person, but because they're a horrible person. Or they cheated on you, not because you weren't doing enough, but because they were the horrible person, right? They were the dishonest, not loyal person. And there's a surprising number of people who do cheat. And honestly, I can see the justification in my head. Oh, it's so hard, and emotional situations are hard, and all that. I can see it in my head. But I think a lot of cheaters don't realize the actual impact that it has on another person. That it is... I don't know if this is too extreme of a statement, but I do think that cheating is sort of a form of abuse in its own. Because you are forcibly breaking your, loved one's truths, right? You are forcibly messing with someone, whether intentional or not. I watched this video, they have those videos of 100 people say what drugs they've done, or 100 people say their sexuality. They had one where it's 100 people say whether they've cheated or not. And there's such a surprising number of people who did. It kind of blows me out of the water. And most of it's teenager stuff. So I guess it isn't as extreme or whatever, but I still think that's important, and I still think that's extreme, and I still think that matters, right? Because as a cheater, as an abuser, as you're not, having a discussion and letting these people naturally get rid of their personal truths. You're not telling them, I'm not attracted to you anymore, I'm not in love with you anymore, and laying it down and explaining. You're just forcibly stealing it from them. You are forcibly stealing these personal truths from them. You are doing things, you are just forcing it away from them. They have these things they're holding in their hands, and instead of negotiating and being I'm sorry, but you can't hold this anymore because I can't be with you anymore, instead you're just knocking it out of their hands. You're knocking it out of their hands, and sometimes they're so determined. These people who, maybe you used to love, they're so determined to hold on to it, to hold on to these happy memories, that they'll just stay with you, right? You'll just stay with that person. Because you don't want to just have these personal truths be destroyed. You don't want these pillars that you've built up over years of these happy memories just to be randomly taken away from you, right? Life isn't a movie. You can't just... Life isn't Shaggy, It Wasn't Me, right? It's not a comedy song of oh, she caught me in the shower, she caught me on camera, It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Sorry, I think I kind of derailed a little bit. But the main thing is to remember your personal truths, and remember that your personal truths can change. As a human being, I think you're incapable of believing in lies, because everything becomes a truth for you once you believe it. But I think that it's important to remember that these truths are ever changing, and that you can change as a person, right? And you can improve as a person. I'm trying to get good lighting, but I think it's just impossible at this point. It's so dark now. But these personal truths are ever evolving, they're ever changing. They're always going to change, they always will change. And it's important to know when to let go. It's important to know when to evolve your thought processes and your memories and your knowledge. And as a sign off for this video, I want you to evaluate the things that you thought might be true but may not be. Evaluate whether there are these toxic people in your life or not. Evaluate what you could do in potential situations like that, and evaluate what you are going to do right now to develop your own personal truths and to develop yourself as a person. Anyway, pretentious talk over.